Hello everyone, Eclipse here, and thanks for taking some time out of your busy days to check out episode 3 of my How to Play Warflux series. If you haven't seen episode 1 or 2, I highly advise you to do so before watching this episode, as you might be a little lost. Also, before we get started, don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more content in the future. Today's episode is going to be a bit longer than the other episodes, as we're going to be taking a look at what happens during damage calculation, traits, and how to actually win the game. After watching all 3 episodes, you should have the basic rules down, and in the next episode, we're going to have a little mock-up battle so you can see everything in action. So without further ado, let's jump right into damage calculation. So, taking a look at what happens during damage calculation, in this demonstration, we're going to be using Alchemic Mithril Knight and Valiant Frontlinesman. This is how they would be placed on the board if you were looking at it from the side, but for the purposes of this demonstration, we're going to orient the cards this way. During your turn, you may attack with creatures on your side of the field, barring any special effects from other cards that may exist on the field. When attacking, you choose the target on your opponent's field for the attack. Once you've declared the attack and chosen the target, both you and your opponent will roll the battle die. The color you roll on the die represents how strong your attack will be. In example 1, player 1 has chosen to attack player 2's Valiant Frontlinesman using their Alchemic Mithril Knight. Player 1 rolls a red, the corresponding attack value on the card is 7, and player 2 rolls a green, whose corresponding attack value is 5. In that case, Valiant Frontlinesman is destroyed and sent to the grave. Taking a look at example 2, player 1 rolls a green, and player 2 rolls a blue. In this scenario, Alchemic Mithril Knight is destroyed and sent to the grave. And finally, let's take a look at a tie. Player 1 rolls a blue, and player 2 rolls a green. In the event of a tie, both creatures are destroyed and sent to their owner's grave. A couple special notes about attacking. A creature can only attack if it is in the refreshed position, and once a creature attacks, it is placed into the exhausted position. Well, now that you have a basic understanding of attacking with your creatures, let's move into traits. Traits provide powerful intrinsic effects to creatures and sorceries, and allow them to do things that other cards wouldn't be able to do. First, we're going to take a look at Defender. If you have a creature with Defender on your side of the field, your opponent must choose the creature with Defender for an attack and destroy it before they can move on to attacking other creatures on your field. If you have more than one creature on your field with Defender, then your opponent can choose any of the creatures with Defender for an attack. In this example, because Valiant Frontlinesman has Defender, player 1 must first destroy it before moving on to Valiant Swordsman. Next up, we have Stealth. This works as sort of the opposite of Defender. If you have a creature with stealth on your side of the field, your opponent must destroy all creatures without stealth before choosing the creature with stealth for an attack. And just like Defender, if your opponent has more than one creature with stealth on the field, as long as no other creatures exist on their field, you can choose any of them for an attack. An easy way of thinking about Stealth and Defender is in terms of priority. Say for instance, player 2 has a creature with Defender, a creature without either Defender or Stealth, and a creature with Stealth. The priority would be as follows. The creature with Defender would need to be destroyed first. Then player 1 must destroy the creature without either. Then player 1 can attack the creature with Stealth. The next trait we're going to look at is Piercing. When a creature with the Piercing trait deals damage to another creature, any excess damage done is dealt to your opponent's champion. For instance, if a creature with 7, 8, 9 and the Piercing trait attacks and rolls a green, and the defending creature with 2, 3, 4 rolls a blue, the defending creature would be destroyed, and 4 damage would be dealt to the controller of the defending creature. The next trait we're going to look at is Hustle. Creatures with the Hustle trait enter the field refreshed. That is to say, they're not exhausted, meaning they're able to attack or exhaust the first turn they're on the field. Moving on, we have Double Striker. Creatures with the Double Striker trait do not exhaust during their first attack of a turn, and can attack again directly after their first attack. Next up is the Transmute trait. If you have a card with the Transmute trait on it, you can discard cards from your hand to lower the flux cost of the card with Transmute by the amount of cards discarded this way. A special note, the flux cost can only be lowered to a minimum of 1. This is known as a Transmute or a Transmute summoning, and some cards may have alternate effects depending on whether they are transmuted or played using flux. The next trait is Transmogrify. If a card has the Transmogrify trait, it will also list specific cards in the effect box. You can remove cards from your field or hand depending on what is listed on the card, and when you do this, you can summon or play the card, ignoring its flux cost. This is known as transmogrifying, and many cards, similar to Transmute, have alternate effects when they are transmogrified versus when they are played using flux. Next up, we have the Armored trait. When a creature with Armored is summoned, you'll notice a number below its trait icon. This signifies how many Armored counters are placed on this creature when it enters the field. All armor counters must be removed through battle before this creature rolls for damage, and they cannot be overpenetrated. A special note, when a creature with piercing does more damage than there are armored counters, excess damage is applied to the opponent's champion. Let's take a look at a few examples of this in action. In this example, Player 2's Heat-Treated Oscillator has Armored 2, meaning that it has 2 armored counters on it, and is being attacked by Player 1's Alchemic Mithril Knight. Player 1 rolls a blue. Because Heat-Treated Oscillator has armored counters on it, it does not roll for damage, and instead, because Player 1's attack of 5 is greater than the amount of armored counters on Player 2's card, the counters are removed in lieu of a damage roll. After armored counters are removed, the creature can be attacked normally. In this next example, Player 1 attacks with Valiant Swordsman and rolls a green. Because Valiant Swordsman's normal attack is 1, and Heat-Treated Oscillator has 2 armored counters on it, Player 2 would remove 1 armored counter from Heat-Treated Oscillator in lieu of a damage roll. And finally, in this example, Player 1 is attacking Player 2 with Bearkin Bruiser. Bearkin Bruiser has the piercing trait. Player 1 rolls a red, and because Bearkin Bruiser's critical attack value is 9 and Heat-Treated Oscillator has 2 armored counters on it, Heat-Treated Oscillator's armored counters are removed and the excess damage is dealt to Player 2's champion. The final trait you need to be aware of is Infiltrator. Infiltrator allows a creature to attack your opponent's champion directly while ignoring all other creatures on the field. This trait even ignores defenders. Now that you know how to attack and what all of the traits do, let's talk a little bit about how to win the game. A game is won when a player reduces the opposing player's champion's health points down to 0. This can be done in a couple of ways, but the most common way you'll encounter while playing Warflux is by attacking with creatures. In order to attack a player's champion, a player must first remove all creatures from their opponent's field, opening them up for a direct attack, unless of course you're utilizing a creature with Infiltrator. And that's it. That's the end of episode 3. After watching all 3 episodes, you should have the basic grasp on how to play Warflux, and in the next episode, we're actually going to have a mock battle, so you guys can see it all fit together and play in action. Thanks for watching episode 3. There is still a little bit of stuff that I didn't cover, mainly like creature effects, but we can save that for another video. It is not super pertinent to the base rules of the game. You basically just follow what it says on the card. In our battle, I'll show you guys a little bit of that too. If you guys have any questions, you want to know something, leave it down in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like. After the battle video, we're going to start doing some fun stuff like creature showcases and advanced player tips and all that good stuff, like I promised you guys in episode 1. But that's it for now. Until then, peace.